New York Rangers Nation. This is episode 7 of the Blue Line Report with me and my co-host Jake of BlueLineStation.com. We are coming at y'all after a very hectic and busy weekend of the 2025 NHL Draft. We're going to do a quick special episode on who Chris Drury took and what they are.
Open, shot, score!
Wow.
Mika Zibanejad! It's a power play goal!
Jake, do you want to start us off with anything?
Yeah, for sure. So, welcome back, guys. Draft day is officially over, or draft weekend, rather. Going into the draft, we knew the New York Rangers weren't going to be the most active team, especially when the New York Islanders had the number one overall pick. They took Matthew Schaefer from the Erie Otters. But the Rangers, with their first pick in the second round, took Schaefer's teammate, Malcolm Spence, the left wing from the Erie Otters. And you heard Matthew Schaefer say, I can't wait to beat the Rangers every time. So there's already a brewing rivalry there. And when you look down the Rangers draft order, I mean, I'm not going to read it out right now because we're going to go through the picks. You see a lot of defensive priorities, but also guys that could project as bottom six or middle six wingers. The key here is the Rangers just keep on adding to their deep prospect pool because you see a bunch of young guys come up, get meaningful minutes for the Blue Shirts, and Chris Drury, Mike Sullivan, they hope that's the case for years to come. So,
Yeah, I mean, and piggyback off of what you said about Malcolm, he was actually projected to be a first rounder. Obviously, the New York Rangers didn't have a first round pick because of having to finalize the trade for JT Miller from back in January. But the fact that Malcolm was available for Drury to take off the board in the second round, I think definitely worked out really, really well for them. Like Jake said, we're going to get into each and every pick, but just in a summary of the class that we have, Drury took one left wing, five defensemen, one center, and one right wing. And I was really glad to see the number of defensemen that went off the board for the Rangers, just because in all of my pre-draft content that I was writing for BlueLineStation.com, whenever someone would ask me what do the New York Rangers need the most, I would say a defenseman and a defenseman with size. And a lot of the defensemen they got kind of meet that criteria. My personal, like, I don't want to say favorite pick because that's not the right word, but like the pick who I think is going to be the one to watch in the future will be Evan Passmore, who Drury selected at number 171. He comes in at 6'5" and 212 pounds, and he's only turning 19 this December. So really young, already really big. He's described as, being really highly skilled in breaking up chances by separating players from the puck, shutting down plays, and having an impressive range. And with all of that being said, he will be actively participating in Rangers development camp. There are other players from this draft class who will also be doing that. But for me personally, I think Evan Passmore was a really good pick by Drury from this draft.
yeah, for sure. I think the Rangers also they've become really good, not at drafting, but rather taking guys at value picks. You look at Malcolm Spence, he was ranked around 20 on draft boards, and they took him at 43. It's sort of similar to Gabe Perreault, who slipped in the 2023 draft, or 2022 rather, and everybody knows what Gabe Perreault is. He excelled at the college level. A pick that stands out to me is probably Mikkel Eriksson from Norway, the Norwegian center. He's only 17. Guy is ridiculously young. And another center from Scandinavia, you're looking at Mika Zibanejad. Another thing with this Rangers draft class, all these prospects are really, really raw. And what I think you could say from that is that the New York Rangers trust their coaching, they trust their organizational structure. And that's a very big, deep part from everything we were hearing around the team that people were unhappy. But for these younger players, they are coming into stability. And the coaches, no matter what level, the goal is to get them to be legitimate NHLers. If I had to choose one, I'd choose Erickson. But I do really like all these picks, and we'll see how they project.
Yeah, another pick I want to get into that was interesting was Artyom Gonchar from the third round. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. That remains my like nemesis in sports journalism is like pronouncing names. It's I go way back with that. But he's interesting. He was taken at pick number 89. He's actually the nephew of a Stanley Cup winner of Sergei Gonchar.
Yeah.
So whenever you're dealing with like a family of hockey players, that's instantly a player to watch simply because he has whoever that player is will have such a strong high hockey IQ. And that was a trend that I was noticing throughout this draft class a lot is like when you read the draft profiles of all of these players, like not even the players that just the Rangers took, but the players that went off the boards in the first and second round in every single draft profile you found, it said that they had such a strong hockey IQ. And I think that shows that that's really what the general managers were looking for this year. Players who know how to make the smart passes, know how to, know the importance of puck control and things like that. But one thing with this particular pick I'm referencing, he's another defenseman who's on the taller side, which is what we said the Rangers needed. However, he's on the lower side weight wise. So I think that we're going to have to wait to kind of see him in action once he puts on a few pounds.
Totally. And you're talking about the Rangers defense that is pretty thin right now, especially on the left side. I mean, you look at the NHL level right now on the right side, you have Adam Fox, Will Borgen, and Braden Schneider. Reports are saying Schneider probably will start the year on the left side because of how thick they are. They're connected to Vladislav Gavrikov. We'll get into that. Keandre Miller might be on the go. But after that, there's not a lot of answers there. You're looking at a Zach Jones, Matthew Robertson. And so to be able to get these defensemen, let them develop and have the chance to turn into legitimate NHLers, that's the biggest thing there because the Rangers, their prospect pool is good, but it was really thin. And so, especially defensive wise, to just take as many swings on these guys, they don't all have to work out, but if one or two do, they're in really good shape down the road.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And just piggybacking off you said about Keandre Miller, I don't think it's a matter of if he goes, it's a matter of when. Just an hour ago, ESPN's Emily Kaplan tweeted out that the Detroit Red Wings have actually already expressed interest in Miller.
Yeah.
So
Oh, sorry. I was
no,
just
you're
gonna
good.
say,
Like it's just that's like a developing story where I would be very surprised if he stays at this point. And I think the fact that Drury got five defensemen to add to the franchise couldn't have come at a better time.
yeah, for sure. And I think with Miller too, obviously a high ceiling, never hit it with New York. The Rangers are really connected with Vladislav Gavrikov, had a plus 26 rating last year with the Los Angeles Kings. It's not a matter of if, not if, but when with him, but I think it's going to happen. One source said to Lowhud's Vince Mercogliano that it's pretty much a done deal. Gavrikov's going to make the Rangers core a lot better. If you're losing Miller, I still see that as a plus for New York. The Rangers clearly need to get better defensively. That's why they gave up the most high danger and mid danger chances in the league last year. Left Igor Shesterkin out to dry, right? And specifically for this draft class, no matter what level they're playing in, whether it's the college level, AHL, OHL, QMJHL, whatever it is, just enforcing this idea of defensive stability because look, we could talk about the Rangers and their playoff hopes, and I'll talk about that with free agency and all that. But at the same time, you're building an organization that could compete for a long time because Igor Shesterkin's here for 7 more years. Alexi Lafreniere, 6 more years. You have youth. It's not like the Rangers champion. I don't want to call it a championship window because they're not a contender right now, but they're going to have their chances to compete, and these prospects could become legitimate. And I think that's the biggest thing that you're sort of hinting at.
Yeah, I am gonna go ahead just so we get it in for the listeners. I'm gonna go ahead and just do the quick list real quick of the full draft class. So obviously, as we mentioned, round one, the Rangers didn't have anyone because of the JT Miller trade. Round two, they took Malcolm Spence, who's the left wing we've already talked about. Round three was back-to-back defensemen. So there was Sean Barnhill, and then there was Artyom, who was the defenseman who I said weighs like 156 pounds. Then there's round four was the center that you referenced, Erickson.
Yeah.
Round five was Zeb Lindgren, who like simply
Another
just
Lindgren.
because of his last name, like of course he went to the New York Rangers. Round six was Samuel Jung and Evan Passmore. And then finally rounding it out, round seven was Felix Varhammer. So yeah, overall just good class. I personally think like the NHL draft was super interesting to watch this year just because of the format. Like
Yeah.
with the what did they call it? Like the draft house where
Yeah,
like
Draft House.
the draft house where it was like the players got drafted and then instead of the GM being there, like it would cut to like a live feed. I personally did not like that. I thought that made things look really impersonal and really awkward.
I agree. Yeah, and I agree. I think that and also Another thing from the draft that Rangers fans really need to recognize is a bunch of teams that are going to contend with New York for wild card spots or divisional spots got better, and the Rangers didn't make any moves. And then free agency, New York will make moves. I don't think you're going to see a bunch of huge swings. I think they're waiting for 2026. But four wild card contenders. Detroit got John Gibson. That's stability and goal. Columbus, 2 points behind the Rangers last year. They're a much better team now. They got Charlie Coyle. You look at Montreal, they were the last wild card spot. They beat out New York. They just traded for Noah Dobson from the Islanders. They add to that young core. And then there's a few other guys there too. Oh, Columbus got Miles Wood too. I forgot to mention that. Ottawa got Jordan Spence. So even though that's not draft picks, all of those teams got better over the weekend. And so if you're Chris Drury, if you're Mike Sullivan, if you're anybody connected to the Rangers, the biggest question now, yeah, the prospect pool is great. The draft class, I do like it. Now it's about getting better because this team's timetable, I'm going to rant for a second. This team's timetable doesn't match up with the draft. They have a bunch of young guys. Artemi Panarin, last year of his contract, Mika Zibanejad's going to be out soon. Igor Shesterkin's not getting any younger. So it is about filling this roster and going for it because they still can go for it even after last season.
Yeah. I also just I'm on the train that I'm personally liking seeing more youth throughout the league. You see
Mhm.
guys like Gabe Perreault,
Brennan Othman.
Brennan Othman, even Brent Berard, and like
Yep.
these are and Matt Rempe's on the young side too. Shout out him. He just had a birthday yesterday. He's literally
Happy
20
23rd. Yeah.
is literally 23 as of like the last 24 hours. But it's the young players that everyone is talking about right now. Like, yeah, sure, everyone's curious to see where Brad Marchand ends up after being a two-time Stanley Cup champion, but at the end of the day, the future of the league is in these young guys. So that's why I think, I wrote a story yesterday on the Rangers development camp, and you see players like how Gabe Perreault is going to be at that camp alongside multiple of the players from this new draft class. And that's exciting stuff to see, not only as a fan, but also as a journalist, because that means that this particular franchise is really preparing for the future.
Oh, absolutely. And we talked it or on like it must have been episode 2 when the Rangers were scratching Perot. You cannot make an argument for this New York team that has had issues both on and off the ice that youth does not make them better. It adds raw energy, it adds talent, especially for the way these guys played at younger levels. And
Mhm.
Matt Rempe, perfect example. Matt Rempe last year was the Rangers' most improved player, not named Will Cooley. And Rempe became a legitimate bottom six NHL forward. He was scoring towards the end of the year. He was producing. He scored some beauties. I mean, his goal against Ottawa, I know it was like January, but still, he became legitimate, right? If this time last year, people were having doubts about Matt Rempe, and we hated that. We absolutely hated that. He is legitimate. He's not going anywhere. And so for this youth, just for them to get their shot, to become legitimate guys, you can't complain. You can't complain because they want to be there.
Yeah. I think a good thing to end off on our NHL draft episode is let's each share our favorite moment from the draft, and I'm gonna go first to make
For
sure you don't
sure.
have mine. It's not New York Rangers related, but when Rogers McQueen got drafted by
Yeah.
Anaheim and they immediately sent him to like Disneyland to like literally like they cut to him on the helicopter pad getting flown to Disneyland, and then he was standing there with Lightning McQueen.
I know.
Like that was both hilarious and iconic. I really love to see that. And also they cut to like his friends that were in the audience of the Peacock Theater, and they were wearing like custom like number 95 like jerseys with like Lightning McQueen and like stuff like that. That is so fun to see. I was seeing tweets like all over social media, and it was saying like shout out Anaheim for having the funniest moment of the NHL draft like in back-to-back years, which I loved. So and also like it's cool to see that like we talked about how Chris Kreider is a mentor and how with now him being at Anaheim, I would love to see him take a player like Roger under his wing.
Yeah, and you talk about someone that moves like Lightning McQueen. That's Chris Kreider right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think one of the best parts of not only the NHL draft, I mean, you saw the NBA draft last week and how much it means to people to see their dreams come true. I mean, look, I hate giving the Islanders praise, but the Islanders did one of the most classy things I've seen in NHL draft history, writing the initials to Matthew Schaefer's mother on the inside collar of his jersey. If you guys don't know, Schaefer's mother passed away from breast cancer in 2024. He talks about his mom all the time, how big of an influence she was to him. And it's really fun to watch. And you saw him break down in tears. The lettering on the collar, the Islanders just did such a good job with that. And
Not to cut you off, they also put the like the pink like
yes,
the pink ribbon on the jersey too, and like it was like you saw Schaefer go up on stage and like he literally like kissed the ribbon and like pointed to the sky like before
right?
anything else, which was so heartwarming to see.
So heartwarming. And no matter where your allegiances are in any sport, just to see something like that. And like, again, we're running out of time, but one other one I could go to, not even the NHL draft, the NBA draft, Kama Maluach, grew up in South Sudan, barely got opportunities, and then he got drafted, broke down in tears. His family broke down in tears. And in both of those like spectacles, because the draft, that's what it is, a spectacle, seeing dreams come true, it's really, really heartwarming and really awesome. And yeah, so much praise to all those guys and the Islanders. You see the wholesome moments, you see the funny moments, you really see it all.
Yeah. Um, I think just to close us out, what we do know from this year's NHL draft is the future of the Rangers franchise looks bright.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see where they go from here. Obviously, Jake and I will have more for you guys with free agency beginning in like less than 24 hours.
Check out
So
BlueLineStation.com for the first content on that.
yeah, as always, keep tuning in to listen to Jake and I. And if you're looking to catch up on your reading, feel free to, as always, check out BlueLineStation.com.
The blue line to Panarin. Skates right. Feeds Fox. Left side to Zibanejad. Back to Fox. Right side to Panarin. Quick movement. Shot. Score!
Wow.
Mika Zibanejad. It's a power play goal. And it's 6-2 Rangers.